Tonight, I just want to add a little disclaimer that we are aware of some of the problematic accusations that have come to light recently surrounding certain creators. And I just wanted to add that here we believe that our content belongs to the fan. And so we want to focus our attention on the art rather than on a specific artist. And we do our best to separate the personal views of the cast and crews from the art, as well as the personal views of any speakers from our community. We are here to create new content with our discussion, and we need to understand that personalities is different from the art. So without further ado, if there are no more comments or questions, all right, then I'm ready. Everybody else ready? Sherry, can you take care of the timer?
Sure, let me pull it up.
All right. I'm excited. Let's see what happens.
So,
all right, so.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say good job, Mary.
Thank you. And 1, 2, 3. I'm good.
No voiceover, John. No opening.
Look at this vampire.
Did they stop doing the voice first? No, it wasn't here.
How minimalistic of Giles. Plunge and move on.
Back to basics.
The makeup.
Oh, great. Oh,
I so
great.
enjoyed listening to you talk about the show.
Sorry,
earlier.
John. I love that he's reading like it's like a church experience.
Yeah, like a sermon.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I like the wide shot of the underground church there, the ruins of the old. Yeah, I was going to say I never noticed. Well, I mean, I noticed it, but not really. Like everything's tilted and all.
Oh, what if Angel is the anointed?
What if he was? Anybody else dancing?
Wait, there's no like impromptu talk. It's just straight into the credits. I'm actually surprised.
Well, normally that impromptu talk was right before we saw anything. And it wasn't even before we saw the vampires.
Yeah, that's what we call a cold open. They decided to do a cold open.
I wonder if they realized that it's probably better to build suspense by like shocking people with something rather than listening to.
They just realized John does it better, so they're not going to have it anymore.
Yeah. Buffy definitely has a type. The like strong jaw.
I like that Giles forgot what he was doing for a second. He was like, what do you want?
Diana, tell me you try to do your hair like this, because I really like this hairdo.
All right,
You were nice.
adjusting my theory. This is the boy that she can't kill on a first date. And he's a vampire.
Just pointing out that it's sunny and they're at school.
Yeah, it's there's sun there.
Just because he likes
He might spark.
Dickinson.
What'd you say, Veronica? I couldn't hear.
I said just because he likes Emily Dickinson.
But he's also wearing more modern clothes. All the vamps seem to be wearing older stuff.
That was kind of a funny line. Where he's like, for and she's like, for a girl, and he's like, for an American.
She was just with him in the stocks. She knows exactly where they were.
How long can the average boy brood for?
Good question. I was thinking like 20 minutes tops, you know. That might be one of the earliest mentions of kale that I remember.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
How avant-garde.
Hey, Soylent Green. We just watched that. Well, I didn't watch it, but community watch.
The royal we.
Truly is royal.
She's so annoying.
I will say this guy Owen does feel very much like the Star Trek. There's the characters who have
Red
the
shirt.
specific
The red
colored-
shirt.
yeah, he feels a bit like a red shirt, doesn't he?
Love that cut.
I laughed out loud.
That's a great cut.
Crickets.
Refresh me. Does the master know she's the Slayer?
He knows there is a Slayer out there, but he's never seen her.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So he doesn't know who the Slayer is. He just knows that there is a Slayer that is in the general vicinity.
Right.
Yeah, remember they were
Now-
supposed to bring her to him, but she never actually made it all the way.
Now, what about who? What about So wait. Um, all of those vampires who she fought obviously knew she was the Slayer. They just never ended up getting back there to really share the details, right?
There's
I
only
mean,
the girl.
does he at least know that it's a high school girl?
Well, the girl has made it back to him a couple of times. The girl vampire, Darla. But I don't know if she knows it's a high school girl.
But she does know that that's the Slayer, though. I mean, she looks like a high school girl.
Yeah.
Well, when he was trying to come back the last time, his whatever wanted her specifically. So I assume that
Are others like experiencing little glitches in the video?
I am not.
I am not.
Where's the guy who's just preaching?
Even this bus was little.
Guess Giles wasn't so wrong after all.
Aww.
Oh, he's cute.
No, not all. It's weird.
The
No,
Legend
yeah.
watch was cute.
I mean, these these vampire henchmen they are not ideal, I guess. Is a good way to say it.
Are they a little dense, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if I was picking my henchmen, I don't think that these would be the two like at the top of the list.
Well, his vessel Luke did get killed, so maybe he didn't have much choice since he's stuck underground. Poor guy.
Like the
I mean-
vampire on the right, he looks like the emoji, the yikes emoji.
I'll never be able to unsee that now. Thanks.
To be fair, Buffy has been killing a lot of vampires, so he doesn't have that many henchmen.
Well, and a lot of them don't have speaking roles, so I wonder if like they're just cost cutting. Like honestly,
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe they
probably.
just dressed up some crewmen to put in a scene.
I mean, and to
That
be
would be
fair, if you're gonna pick henchmen, you don't want really smart ones because then they can like form a coup or overthrow you. So you do want just like the dense ones, right? No.
The muscle.
know,
Yeah, I mean,
But-
those they strike me as background talent that they just put into costumes.
Naughty Xander.
So predictions on which of the five is the one who's gonna.
I mean, to be fair, they're all kind of random people.
Look at Xander taking advantage.
And Willow's trying to knock that stuff off.
To me, that's what's so great about this series is here's Buffy trying to do normal stuff and it's just not working.
The song is on the soundtrack.
I think I'm in the minority where the music, I'm not.
I mean, I'm into it for its cheesy factor. I mean, it's definitely not music that I listened to back then or would ever listen to now, but it's funny.
It fits the show and the brand.
I mean, this is not a big band. This is probably some, I'm gonna guess some LA band, maybe. A lot of indie musicians in Los Angeles were hit up to be in episodes of stuff, and it was a good opportunity for them to get a little bit of exposure. So there was a lot, I think, a lot of that in the '90s and early aughts.
Yeah, I had a loose friend that their band got in like an episode of Dawson's Creek. Like it was really exciting for them.
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
I remember like it was like during the '90s when, you know, things started to like become harder for recording artists, and they started really looking at the other opportunities in film and television, like to get their stuff on a TV show or something. I remember when I was living in Chicago, there were a few musicians that were really into that. They were hoping for that.
Until watching this, I kind of forgot that hair crimping came back in the late 90s. I always thought of that as an 80s look.
Definitely big in the 80s.
The Cordelia is bringing it back.
Have we talked about Giles' car yet? Because what if, did he bring that with him from London? Because
How much is the shipping on that?
Maybe the Watchers Council sent it.
There's just a uniform code.
does growling count as having lines?
But that wouldn't have been them. That's all. That would have all been put into post. Those vampires weren't saying a thing on set.
So that's not a funeral home. That's a mausoleum.
Maybe in Sunnydale, the funeral home doubles as a funeral home.
More.
As a mausoleum for
Yeah.
cremated people.
Well, he's in the mortuary.
Giles hits us. I mean, it's already, we already can see that it's you.
You don't think that chair and coat rack are going to do much for him? John?
Ah, look who it is.
Salty goodness.
Yeah, my episode clearly like skipped ahead or something weird happened because you guys are all now behind me.
That's weird.
What did Buffy just say?
She's introducing.
introducing.
Oh, need a timestamp?
No, I'm just stopping it for a second and then waiting a beat. I think I'm
So Willow and Xander just Why is Buffy not overjoyed for Willow that she's finally dating Zach?
Because she's preoccupied with her own date.
Who thinks one of these two will say that they love the other one before the end of the episode?
Well, what?
Will say that they're in love with the other one. Oh,
You mean Buffy and Owen?
yes.
Maybe Buffy. She did just kiss him.
Things just seem to be moving very fast with Owen, which doesn't bode well for Owen.
I liked the echo though of she's the strangest girl, but like Giles said it before.
That's a pretty coat, even though I know someone said it irked them that they're always wearing coats in LA. I mean,
I'm going to make a prediction.
let's hear it.
I'm going to make a long-term prediction. And it's just because of the actor's face. I think that Giles would look pretty good with vampire makeup. I think he's going to be a vampire at some point in the series.
I'll write it down.
Can a watcher become a vampire?
Oh, somewhere in a later season they can. Yeah, it will be. I would imagine that that would be a big deal. Turning a watcher into a vampire. Oof, that's big stuff. I think it's coming, but it won't be for a while.
The big question will be, will he turn back from the vampire?
That wasn't a question that I had until you just said it. So now I'm feeling more confident that he's going to become a vampire.
Well, the question is, who's not going to be a vampire at the end of the series?
Yeah, because you have Cordelia,
Well,
me, who's going to be
I
a
can
vampire,
answer-
and now Giles.
Well, I can answer that for you. And Owen is not going to be a vampire because Owen is going to be dying by the end of this episode.
Taking fast with these predictions.
Poor red shirts.
I was thinking the same thing.
I got to say, this is a fun episode.
Did you hear her say ew hearts? Is there just some hearts in that, right?
I thought you said
Or parts.
parts.
Okay, she said parts, okay. Either
It's
way.
not better, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, parts isn't better than hearts.
Did it really take them that long to look through 6 drawers?
They kept opening and reopening the same ones.
I'm still not
I
over
mean,
that.
that's sort of what it
Sam
looks
put
like,
a
right?
lampshade to block the door.
Maybe there's
Like,
two
just-
walls of Does anybody else think Owen might be a little obsessed with death?
Only a little.
FYI, this is why I hate horror.
What, the guy waking up on the table?
Why this is why I hate funerals.
Yeah. No, this like as a kid or like teenager, that would have freaked out.
Yeah, they're not screaming enough.
I agree. I asked for predictions of who's gonna rise. Nobody predicted this.
Too scared to scream, I guess.
I can't give predictions.
Man,
here,
this
sorry.
is all ADR. Not a single bit of that dialogue was spoken by him on.
Or he said it, but they didn't use the recording, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, I'm guessing
Those
it's because of
prosthetic
all the glass.
teeth.
I'm guessing all the glass on the ground was making a lot of noise. So they had to redo it.
Sometimes it was hard for them to speak with those teeth in their mouth because they weren't custom fitted too, so they had to go back.
Oh
and
yeah,
redo it.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it was said for the first episode, the guy who played Jesse, when he was wearing makeup, that they felt bad that everything was with S's and he was having a really hard time.
You can kind of tell when the master guy speaks.
Oh no, Owen.
And Giles is knocked out.
Gotta love the old hit him with a tray trope. No, you kidding me? Owen's dead? Like, is that how Owen dies? Did he like break his neck or something? Oh no, there he is. Okay, there we go.
I think wishful thinking on the vampires.
That was
How considerate of Giles to turn on the fire when he gets.
I want some managers.
Which flavor?
Oh, I could do some cherry Garcia right now.
Aw, poor Buffy.
Willow sounds perky at the fact that he may possibly have a concussion, so they missed it. Like,
Does almost dying count for your prediction, John?
I mean, not really, no. I mean, the the fact that he really wants to go pick a fight in a bar, I mean,
yeah.
he already lost. He lost me there.
Giles is
Completely.
sharing.
This is a double headphone.
Wait, so who was the anointed one? That one guy that was on the bus? That's
Yes.
the anointed one? Really?
Yeah.
Hang on. The
Oh, that's the anointed one, maybe. Oh, is that the anointed one, the little kid?
Yes.
Ba, ba, ba. Yep.
The henchmen did their job. They kept her away from the anointed one.
From the anointed one, because I mean, I definitely wasn't at all buying that guy from the bus was the anointed one. I mean, there was nothing anointed about that guy.
That kid was on
the
the
kid was on the bus.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I mean, it's the kid. Yeah, I mean, there's no question that it's the kid.
But the point was that the Slayer would not recognize him. So he wasn't supposed to look like a vampire.
And so
Right.
that guy that she killed, he was basically like to distract her, right?
A
Yeah, it was like
decoy
a bit- it was like a-
anointed.
It was a misdirect. It was a misdirect for her and for us. But like I said, I would argue it's just like such a like, you know, that guy just doesn't seem at all like, you know, that character doesn't seem at all like a quote unquote anointed one. You know, when you think of the tropes of this type of fiction, you know, it would be something a little bit more like an innocent creature, you know, being taken by the master in order to like, you know, take their innocent life force into their own. It would never be a guy like that weird, you know, guy from the bus. I mean, like that doesn't seem like something that a master would need to, you know, increase their power.
But wasn't Luke sort of the same thing? Who was going
Luke.
to break out the guy who was gonna he was literally anointed. I don't know what he called him.
He
Is
was
Rika or
the
something?
vessel. He was the vessel.
The
So
vessel.
He was
right?
the
Who's the
one
guy?
who was gonna, yeah, he would bring the energy in through all the harvests of the people in order for the master to get his energy back to be able to break through and break out from where he is.
Remind me who that was again?
That was Luke, the big guy.
The
in
big
the first two
muscular guy
episodes.
from the first couple episodes.
Oh, that guy? I
Yeah.
never thought of that guy as anything more than just a henchman. But so I guess I missed that because and if I missed it, it was also for that reason. That guy does not fit the typical trope of, you know, this sort of important vessel that, you know, a dark, you know, an agent of darkness, you know, needs. You know, typically
Well, he was a
typically
henchman.
that trope is filled by some innocent person, you know, a child, you know, a girl, you know. It wouldn't be usually filled by like a muscle dude.
Well, he was basically a henchman, but then the master gave him a symbol so that when he went out, like that he would be the vessel for the master. But he was basically just a big old henchman that had been with the master for probably hundreds of years.
Got it. Okay, so I missed that. And if I think that if that had resonated with me more, then maybe I would probably have thought like, oh, okay, this new guy kind of looks a little bit like the old guy, so maybe that's what this new guy is supposed to be. He's supposed to fill that role. And it still doesn't totally land with me.
I think you were
But,
distracted by his vampire makeup
By his
before.
vampire makeup. Yeah, there's no question that the vampire makeup affected me. But you know, the way that this episode ended certainly like fits that very typical trope of like, you know, a vessel, like a really dark force needing some sort of innocent force as their vessel. That's like pretty common in this type of you know, of supernatural horror fiction. So they got there. I didn't really see that with the like henchmen that much.
Sorry,
Owen,
just
you know,
gonna-
look,
I'm
like
just gonna-
I predicted that Owen was going to die, but like at a certain point in the episode, I didn't say it, but at a certain point in the episode, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to end. You know, obviously, you have to believe me that I really did think that at some point I was like, this is going to end with it not working out between them somehow and him leaving, you know, because of that. It sort of felt like that ending sort of felt like I could kind of see it coming. I didn't really know exactly how it was going to play out exactly, you know, in terms of, you know, what it was that would be said between them that would cause it to not work. I did find it funny that he, you know, that he wants to go pick a fight in a bar. Like, I mean, like that couldn't be more of an unsavory personality trait to be the type of person who likes to pick bar fights.
I think this turned him into an adrenaline junkie, personally.
No, I get
feel
that.
like
It was just
I'm gonna go do that.
it was just a funny
Yeah.
like thing for him to say he wants to do. Like, it would be different if he was like, let's go out and look for people who are picking bar fights and, and like put them in their place or whatever, like, that, but like, let's go and actually pick a bar fight. It's like, oh yeah, I don't like those people who do that at all.
So I just wanted to
It just
say
made him a
that
little,
Al
it just
just
made him a
opened-
little unlikable in that moment. And it made that, the end where she's like, I would get him killed, which is that moment's supposed to be kind of like, oh, it really, like she liked him and he liked her and this could have worked, but being a slayer is going to keep her from, from this, like, this is going to be a big problem. I got that, but he already lost me in this, in those moments before. So I actually didn't really care. Like, I was kind of like, you can do better than that, Buffy.
I feel like that's going to be an ongoing theme for us here. Like, everyone's going to be like, Buffy, you can do better.
Yes. I mean, yes. Buffy, do better. You can do better. I really love Buffy. I think she's such a cool character. So
Well, I think
I want her to. So I have high standards for her. Like I'm hoping that she finds somebody a bit better than Owen.
yeah, but like that, I think that's what happens is that she realizes that like Owen, like, she'd probably get him killed, blah, blah, blah. But I think what she was saying there, which is like something that everyone goes through at some point or another, is that like the person you like says a thing that just like makes you realize that they're not on the same page as you, or like that, like it was just sort of an, like, you're right, like it was an unlikable thing to say, like, oh, let's go pick a bar fight, and she's just like, oh man, I thought he was a different guy, like she
Right.
just,
Yeah.
she's
That's
in that
cool.
moment being like, that's, I thought I liked him. Well, that sucks. And I'm finding this out because of who I am, like, so, I mean,
that's cool. I like that.
right,
Okay.
but like that's dating, right? Like you
Yeah.
find out about other people because of who you are. So you say one thing and they say another. I mean, like, you say like, I don't know, I feel this way about this. And they're like, oh no, I feel this way about it. And you're like, oh shoot, it's a deal breaker. Like and
Yeah,
that's what happened
and I like
in that moment.
I like that it's like, I realize that you aren't the guy that I kind of was excited about, and that also, like, another layer of it is I've realized that because of who I am,
Right.
which that's cool. I hadn't actually thought about that.
It's
I like
just
that a lot.
typical. That's like typical dating again. Like the show makes a sort of an allegory for a really regular thing that happens to teenagers. Like, oh, I like that scene too, because the way that she's just watching him walk away for so long, like while they're having that conversation, while she and Giles are talking, and it's like a real sad goodbye. Like she's saying goodbye to like the promise of someone, the way that you would when you realize that somebody that you like just isn't the person that you thought they were, and it just coming to terms with that sucks. It's just sad to like see your crush like walk away.
Yeah, but I didn't want to linger too much on the romanticism of losing him. I like the idea that it's like that there's like some sort of loss that she feels she's suffering, in regards to what she, what she sort of, or the obstacles that are in the way for her to find love, to find, a partnership. But I don't know. I mean, it did feel like with the music and the gaze that we were supposed to be kind of like, oh man, she really liked that guy,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, like that guy.
Well, yeah, well, of course, but there is the implication. They mentioned though that like Xander and Willow, like there's the implication that they get it. And, I forget exactly what Giles says, but like, or what she says, like they get it. And so the implication there for me is that, there are going to be other people that I can bring into my circle that get it, that get me. But that guy wasn't one of them. And that's sad, you know, because I really liked him and thought he was cute. And he like, you know, got me excited and, you know, all that stuff. And that's just a really normal thing. Like, there are just going to be people that don't get you. And, you know, you just kind of have to let them go.
I like that, Diana.
I have a question for everyone here. Well, especially like the people who haven't seen this yet. At the end there, I'm not sure if we were talking over it or not, but the conversation with Giles and Buffy at the end, Giles said to her, you know, because she was sitting there all sad and everything, and about being the Slayer and having to lose people like this, whatever. And Giles said he shared that his father had been a watcher, and his grandfather before him was a watcher, and so when he heard that. Yeah, we got Giles history. So when he heard he was going to be a watcher too, he was upset because he had, quote, you know, definite plans. He wanted to be a fighter pilot. Does that change how you think about him or give you more insight into how he was before?
Yeah, I do think to myself, it does make me think, okay, so where's Giles's love interest? And will Giles have a son that he can pass Watcher off to as well? Because as of right now, it's looking like this might stop at Giles.
Why do you think it may stop at Giles?
Well, I mean, at least this like little Watcher pass along thing. You know,
because he's not married.
And you think he's gonna be a vampire, so can vampires have kids?
Well, I mean, it's very, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me like what I'm thinking about in regards to that, when I think of like history of, you know, grandfather passing to father, passing on to son, like my mind immediately like starts thinking into the future as well. I start thinking like, okay, who's he going to pass it on to? Like what, like, and then I'm like, oh, well, he's not married or has a significant other that has a child, so that would need to happen within this series in order for him to do that. If
Unless
it doesn't,
he doesn't
then,
want to pass it along.
yeah, I was going to say then if it didn't, then the other option would be, I want to end this here. I don't want to pass this on anymore because I, for whatever reason, don't want to keep, you know, passing on this history of this role, because I don't know, maybe he doesn't believe in it anymore, or he gets disillusioned by it. Or the other option is I break from tradition, and it isn't my own child that I pass this on to, but I pass it on to somebody else that I believe is like a child to me, you know, like, you know, I don't know, maybe Xander becomes the next Watcher. Or the other option is he dies, or the other option is he becomes a vampire, in which case, for whatever reason, he can't pass it on for that reason. So I think he's going to become a vampire. Like he has, his face just looks like it is just begging for some latex, some prosthetics.
So would you say that this, okay, I know you like these Monster of the Week episodes, and this one to me seems like it's a Monster of the Week plus serial put together.
Oh no, this felt like a serial. This felt totally part of the like broader mythology for me. It didn't feel like a
well, it definitely is, but it also has the guy they got to try to kill. But
yeah, no, but Monster of the Week for me feel like I always like classify a Monster of a Week episode as one that is specifically outside of the serialized canon. You know, it might like make a small little dialogue reference to the canon, but for the most part, there are no characters from that. It's really truly like a side quest. You know, like in video games, you have like, you know, the main video game arc that you're playing, and then you can do these side quests. Like a Monster of the Week is truly a side quest. It's just like a diversion from that. And Teacher's Pet was one. So was Witch.
and this one is fully back to the serialized one. It definitely has its own mini arc, but it's for me it's part of the, like, what I would consider to be the mythology. It's this attempt for this master character to finally come into the real world. He began that in the first 2 episodes, and now he's trying to do it again here, and it ends on a cliffhanger, which means that we have more to come to find out about this.
And did you like the master any better today?
That would be a no. That the master is just a bit too mustache twirly for me.
If only he had a mustache to twirl.
Yeah, it's just too like overly. It's just too overly evil. There's no shades to this to the character.
But would you expect that kind of character to be anything
I
but
was gonna
evil?
say he's a master of vampires. What shade does he need?
I don't know. I prefer my villains to have a little bit more depth and nuance, and for their motivation to not just be as even when power is their main motivation, I like to understand where that comes from. I get it, it's a supernatural creature, so it's power, I guess, is just in its DNA, and it doesn't really come from anything except but it makes the character a little two-dimensional for me. I mean, you could certainly have examples of monsters, whether they're literal monsters or figurative monsters throughout storytelling, modern storytelling, that are not just super, just pure evil.
Well, the master.
I mean, I want to say that I want to say that even Voldemort has more shades of. But I guess maybe we'll
once he gets free, but the master is trapped, so he's very limited in what he can do at this point. He has to use these other vampires. He relies on others to help him get to his ultimate goal, so he's really kind of trapped down there, and he can only do so much, and he is just evil. I mean, he looks like a skull. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a character. I'll just say that. That's how I feel about him. He's not a character. He's just a narrative tool.
Maybe he'll be that way the whole time, but remember that in Harry Potter, Voldemort kind of started out as not having the strength to.
And he was just a character too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean when I say Voldemort, for me, has real shades of character. He's got history, a backstory.
Oh, agreed. The whole Tom Riddle, and that's my point, is that further along you find out about Tom Riddle, but not right away.
Yeah, but also right away, Voldemort is sort of left a mystery. We aren't really sure who he is. We're kind of trying to understand. The most we see is a strange head in a back. It's whereas this is really doing a big sermon inside of a demonic cathedral.
No, that's fair. I mean, it is a little more.
That's why I say I don't think he's a character. He doesn't feel like a character. He feels like a narrative tool. My characters are the ones who I'm learning. I'm understanding their backstory, and I'm understanding their motivation, and they're the ones that I care about. And so he's just a dangerous force. He's just a dangerous force. Which I guess that's fine. I guess we can you can love a show and just be only focused on the characters that are heroes. But I do like fiction. I like the villains in fiction to have some additional shades personality and motivation, and there to be a little bit of pathos in there that just that challenges you as an audience member to like question how you feel about that villain. I don't need to question myself on this villain. He's just pure evil. And that's why I say like sort of mustache twirly. You don't see villains like that often anymore, if at all, really, in storytelling these days. You know, they're always like given some degree of humanity,
Well,
even if they've made like major mistakes, even if they're addicted to power, even if they're just horrible, horrific. You know, they are given some three-dimensional character traits that help you at least understand their personality.
I see him more as like a puppet master rather than an actual character. He's just putting things in front of our characters to like fight through, like on their like ultimate quest to defeat him, but he's not interacting directly with them. So there's not much opportunity for us to find out more about his background or have him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think he just strikes me as sort of a narrative tool. He doesn't really strike me as a character.
But also, I think it's significant that I think I liked this about the show is that you definitely understand that vampires are simply the undead. Like they are not like they're disposable. You know what I mean? Like they keep coming. They are dangerous, but they're not like they have no motivation except to kill, and that's it, and so you can kind of like understand other villains in this show in relation to that. And I don't know, I like that there's no I don't really like the master thing because it seems like a lot of effort for an undead person that like would just like he's I don't know, he just doesn't seem to have any. He's a vampire, so like vampires are disposable, they just keep coming, like like that's it. Like it doesn't seem like he should be special in any sort of way because he's just a vampire like all the other vampires. So like I don't know, like they don't seem like true villains to me in general because they're just things that are coming to kill, and so she's got to kill them first. And like we don't have to feel bad about it, we don't have to like question their motivation. They have one motivation, and that is to live, and so they have to kill to live, and that's it. And I think that's important because we're going to find other villains in this show that aren't like that. And so I think, I don't know, I always thought like the vampire, the idea of the vampire just simply being a vampire, one that sucks life out of everything, out of the room, out of everything, and has absolutely no motivation except for that, is kind of interesting as a villain. But
See,
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to change the topic, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, like just kind of, I guess, I don't know how to word it, but like just going off of what Diana said, like, they're vampires, they are disposable, like she can just kill them and they poof away. But he is a master and he does have a different appearance than the others. So that leads to the question, why and how? You know what I mean? Like he clearly has, like, he had like the Luke guy before, he has this anointing. Like, why does he look different and why is he not as disposable? I mean, he is obviously underground and protected. But he's not like the other vampires. So like I was just wondering if anyone's picked up on that or
I was just gonna ask and like bring up the same thing. The Baron, or I called him the Baron because he reminds me of the Baron from What We Do in the Shadows, but he's the master. So, the master has a very distinct appearance to him. He has a very distinct way in which, and at least to me, he has a very distinct way in which he speaks and the way he carries himself and the way he snarls. Like he's a very distinct character to me. And in the means that he goes through, they're very limited to carry out any plans he has to fruition.
because he can't really do much, it really does beg the question, like he really is up there, you know, like he does have a plan, or maybe he is a piece in a part of a bigger plan. So what is that said plan? You know, and so again, I bring up What We Do in the Shadows, because What We Do in the Shadows kind of spoofed this idea with the Baron that the vampires were going to take over the New World, and at least the three main vampires were going to at least start taking over Staten Island and whatever. And I know in What We Do in the Shadows, it was more of a joke, but here in Buffy, it's a bit more serious. So I could totally see that the vampires ruling the world. Like I could totally see that happening and them wanting that to be a plan. So
Well, can I just let me just say my perspective on these vampires is that they are about as close to zombies in terms of just their presence on screen than any vampire I've seen in other vampire fiction. Like it's funny. This reminds me a lot of a sort of playful debate that I had like over a decade ago with James Gunn, which found its way online, and even recently was brought back up online, where he and I got into a huge debate about what was scarier, a vampire or a zombie. And I sort of stuck with, like, I thought that ultimately zombies were more terrifying to me because they're just like disgusting and gross, and you know, vampires are intelligent, so they, you know, there's some degree of like reasoning with them, you know. But
no.
well, I mean, you know, they're intelligent, so you can at least have a conversation with them, you know. Whereas, like, you know, zombies, like, all they care about is eating you. And to me, that's how these vampires seem. They just seem really, really dumb, you know. With the exception of the Master, who seems like the only vampire in existence who is intelligent, all of the other ones are like, Master, oh, Master. And there's something about that makes them more zombie-like. And somebody even just said it recently, just said it to, here, that it, like, a part of the show feels like there's this like never-ending onslaught of vampires that Buffy has to take on. And, you know, by the way, like the show itself, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, suggests that vampires are like just pouring out of the Hellmouth, like, you know, just flooding this place, and she has to just, you know, constantly be like fighting and killing them. That's a very much a zombie trope, you know, this idea of like a flood of monsters that you're just like killing one after the other after the other after the other. That is,
or they're flocking to the Master.
That's not typically a trope that we see in vampire fiction. Vampire fiction usually is much, you know, is much like quieter, it's much sneakier, it's, you know, and it's not quite that like barrage of monsters the way that we're seeing here.
But maybe they're all coming to the Master. Maybe that's part of like how Regina thinks and wonders, is there a different plan that we don't know about yet? Because he's trapped down there. What really benefit do they get from him? They don't have to be there. He can't chase after them, yet they're there. So there's something to that, you would think.
I'm just suggesting that it's a different kind of vampire than I've been accustomed to. It's a different vampire that feels a little bit less vampire and feels a little bit more just general monster, and like monster more on like erring on the side of zombie. I mean, like those two vampires tonight, the ones that were like down there in the light, I mean, those two vampires were essentially zombies. You know, they really felt like total zombies. I mean, I haven't watched True Blood. I feel like I keep referencing True Blood, and I need to actually watch it. But like, I haven't watched it, but something tells me like the vampires on that are not like this. and vampires. I don't know.
Maybe they were just really dumb guys before they were
I guess
vampires.
I guess the vampires in The Witcher are kind of like that. Like not all of them. There's like a class of vampire. I guess now that I think about it, it's true. Like there is like old school vampire lore that kind of has vampires on different tiers, and the like really high level vampires, like high vampires, are typically very intelligent, and then you've got like really low tier vampires that are practically like mindless monsters.
I also want to point out that he's really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like if you compare the vampires we met in the first 2 episodes, like Darla and Luke and all of the ones who were involved in there, they were a lot more vocal. They had conversations with him. I think
he's down to the last mayonnaise at the bottom of the jar. Like he's, I mean, he's like scraping out like just tiny bits of it. Yeah,
they're his bench warmers.
Yeah, and like I think the boy that was turned into a vampire episode 1 or 2, like he still had thoughts. He was still, I mean, you could still his brain was still taking a look.
Yeah. I also just think if the master is like this like high vampire type, like this like super intelligent style of vampire, he's just not there for me yet in terms of his intelligence. I mean, it's a little bit more like show like more like I'm intelligent.
Don't tell me.
Yes, exactly. He's doing a little bit too much telling me that he's doing too much telling me he's intelligent. All of that like bravado, that like look at me. This is the way an intelligent vampire behaves. These are the things we do. We do sermons from old tomes. We lift you up by your neck. Like these are all just like really common, almost they're just common intelligent arch villain tropes. I haven't yet seen anything that suggests that he is highly intelligent.
Can I ask about the character development of another very intelligent character?
Yeah.
Mr. Watchers, a slayer slays and a watcher watches, went out into the field today.
Yeah.
You mean to the funeral home?
Yeah, like he went out on his own to investigate, and he got like he fought vampires and ran from them, used his cross on them twice. Like he's getting his hands dirty.
That is,
he's not sitting.
Yeah, my sense was that like that was inspired by the scene before where he and Buffy went to that, like we were kind of waiting there by that statue or something.
Yeah, they were waiting for the.
Yeah, and like it didn't happen, and I sort of feel like he was sort of pushed to go into the field, not by her, by himself, by his own,
But I saw that as character development. Like I saw that as growth for him, because in the past he was like, you go out and I'm going to read the books and I'll let you know what's in the books. Today he didn't read the books. He actually said, let me go explore myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also because, Buffy was out on a date, so he kind of felt like, I guess he had to take up the slack maybe as well. So because she was just like, no, I'm not going out today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, John had predicted that if he might become a vampire one day, he's putting himself at risk here. If he stays in the library and is the watcher with the books, he's at far less risk of becoming a vampire.
Oh, he's okay. He's going to be a vampire. Let's not fool ourselves here, folks. Come on,
You're
can't you see him with a mouthful of can't you see him with those teeth? Can't you see his nose like all kind of? I mean, I'm seeing it. It's definitely gonna happen. It's definitely gonna happen. I don't think in this season. Certainly not in the next season, or maybe season 3. But I could see it happening. Like I'm gonna say this. I think by season 6, Giles has been turned into a vampire.
I'm writing it down.
That's my prediction.
And
That's my
when is
prediction.
Cordelia changed? I forgot. You told us.
Cordelia, she'll be a vampire by
I think you said season 4. I have season 4.
season 4. Season
Mhm.
4. I'm gonna stick with that. Cordelia by season 4, and Giles by season 6. And I don't think Xander will ever become a vampire, and I definitely don't think Willow will become a vampire.
Why is that?
But I do. They just don't fit the bill. Like in terms of their character, they're going to remain like her buddies. They're going to remain her buddies. They're going to. One of them might die. I could see Xander dying before the end of the series, or Willow dying. I think it would be more likely to be Xander than Willow. But I don't think so. They're just they've created this dynamic of them. I could change my tune if that dynamic starts to change, but as of right now, this is like a little mystery trio, and it doesn't seem likely that they would make one of them a vampire. But Giles, he fits into a different category. Like he's this sort of special thing there within their group, and for that reason, I think, and because he's British, British folks sound really good. British folks sound really good as vampires. They really do.
Oh my God, that's my favorite theory so far.
I'm adding that on there, and because he's British.
Yeah.
Oh, John, you have so many theories. I'm gonna lose track of them pretty soon.
I was gonna say I really was intrigued by Cordelia's reactions today, because she first insults Buffy, and the guy's like, "No, I'm still here with Buffy." And then she goes, "When you're ready for the big leagues come." Wouldn't that be a turnoff that he's already decided to be with Buffy? Like, why would you take him after he's taken Buffy? Buffy's so like undesirable. Like, why would you want a guy who's taken her? Like,
Cordelia just wants to win. That's all.
Yeah, that's all it really is. It's just Cordelia just like likes the idea. I mean, I don't think that she cared about Owen at all.
Yeah, she was probably only interested in Owen because Buffy was interested in him.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I always thought about this episode. I mean, she's obviously interested in Angel because it's the second episode where he's walked by her and she's made some kind of comment unrelated to the fact that Buffy was around. And it's kind of funny that he pays no attention to her. But I think she just always wants to win. She's just that mean girl who has to have it all.
I wanted to note that there is a watch that was supposed to start at 10:30. Just so.
Yeah.
There it's not. We're good, Hunter.
Okay. Just check.
But I am gonna have to jump off here in a sec.
well, thank you all for joining.
Yes. I will say that that this was I'd say was a above average liked episode for me. It still doesn't come. It's still my favorite episode so far is Witch, for sure.
That is the correct answer. Yes.
Yes, and
That is
That
correct.
is a great episode.
It's the best episode. It's so,
so far
much fun.
that one is the best episode of the 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's funny. It's got like all kinds of really like interesting takes on high school tropes. And it's just an all around fantastically written episode. But this is good, and I enjoy the return to the mythology, and learning more about like what's going on here and the Witchers and the Witchers, the Slayers, and
Similar, yeah.
similar, yeah. Actually, like the Witchers. The Witcher's great. The Witcher's a great series for like
It really is.
like the Buffy. I mean, I know very different. You know, obviously modern story, female protagonist, but and you know a lot of allegories. But like Witcher has a lot of the similar kind of monstery type stuff in it, and it's a lot of fun. So it actually does remind me a little bit of it. It's sword and sandals, so it's like, you know, you got to be wanting to watch a fantasy show, but especially like there's a lot of vampire-y type stuff in it. And actually, that was the show that reminded me that it's actually true, like that in like vampire fiction, you know, there is kind of a range of vampires, from like these very high vampires, very like intelligent, powerful vampires, to these like just really lowly monstery vampires that are almost mindless.
Are you talking about the Netflix show, the new Netflix show? The Witcher,
Yeah.
or an older one?
No, the new Netflix show, The Witcher, which is based on a book. It's based on a series of books.
It's so hard
by-
to follow though. So you got to pay real close attention to that show.
That's
Well,
part of
I mean,
what it
you know,
makes it so good. It's
Oh,
Yeah,
I
well
like it.
done.
I haven't watched the second season yet, but the beginning of that was really hard to follow.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's highly serialized, and it's fantasy in like the new form of like this sort of new school fantasy, in which you really are asked to remember like a ton of different characters' names. Like, you know, Game of Thrones basically, like, you know, kind of threw down the gauntlet, like, you know, time for, if you want to get into fantasy, time for you to, like, you know, pull out notepads and write down every character's name, because there are a lot of them and it's hard to follow all the plot lines. But I will say season 2 of The Witcher is way better than season 1 and is really, really cool.
I
And it has a
completely
lot.
agree with that. Season 2 was fun to watch.
Yeah,
It
season
binged
one
through
is kind of fun. I agree with you, Sherry. Kind of hard to follow at times. I was a massive fan of the video game, and so I was able to follow it a lot better than I think I would have if I hadn't played the video game. It's really cool. It's written by a Polish author. It's a very, very popular piece of Polish fantasy, like, and a contemporary. I mean, he knows George R. R. Martin. That author knows George R. R. Martin, and so kind of a contemporary of his in that sense. And the series has plays a lot with like with comparisons to 20th century, like stuff in the 20th century, like a lot of the dark things that happened in the 20th century. Obviously a Polish author, so he draws clearly a lot of inspiration from like World War II and the Holocaust and nuclear weapons and science and eugenics and all of this stuff. And it's interesting because it's interesting to see an author doing that with fantasy, you know, rather than with science fiction. J.R.R. Tolkien did some similar stuff as well. So not to say that hasn't been done with fantasy, but it's a good show. Anybody who can stomach fantasy should definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, that one's on my list. I'm excited to start watching it.
Yeah. All right, everyone. I am going to head out. Mary, thank you so much for this. Sherry, thank you so much.